Welcome back to RimWorld, where last time we battled flesh monsters from the ancient danger, zombies from across the river, bandits from the Duke's gang, and even mechanoids from outer space. And we also successfully rescued Brunk, the leathery stranger who cleans the base for us 24/7. But Mac was not so lucky and was lost in our last battle. To close things out for year 1 on the colony, Joel dug a grave for Mac. A funeral was held and it was deemed to be good. That is a +5 mood boost for the entire colony, enough to offset witnessing her death in the first place. But the mechanoid cluster was still active, with only hours to go before more centipedes would be produced. Fortunately, Joel and Hugh arrived just in time, and the mechanoids were defeated. For the next several days, we focused on cleanup and catching up on work tasks while everyone's mood stabilized. Chaffinch, a prisoner that we're holding captive from the Duke's gang, and one of Brunk's kidney donors, made for a fine tribute to the Empire, giving Jen +3 honor. Stripped of his dignity, kidney, and his clothes, Chaff was off to face the next chapter in his life. As the new year began, we crafted new furniture for all the individual bedrooms on the southeastern corner of the base. And just after moving in, a fellow trader called for aid, being chased by 4 wild rhinoceroses. He offered a prestige recon helmet in exchange for aid, and they would arrive only a few hours later. We held them briefly at the southern shore of the river, but ultimately we had to fall back to safety as they began to cross, instead opting for hit and run tactics. But unfortunately, one rhino was able to squeeze in. No. But a clutch shot from Jen's automatic pistol was enough to seal the rhino's fate. And the final 2 would soon follow. Trader Jen's accuracy would be rewarded by wearing the Prestige Recon helmet, and the colony celebrated with an unforgettable greedy celebration. The festivities were so memorable, a random passerby couldn't help but ask to join, and so we obtained our 7th colonist, an adept miner with some medical skill, who would now be known as Andrea. So with the addition of a good miner and an abundance of resources scattered around the map, it was time to get started on some massive construction projects, starting with a floor along all the predetermined pathways for the base. Brunk has turned out to be a very adept colonist. He even sweeps up shell casings right as they hit the ground. Turns out his multi-organ transplantation was a worthwhile endeavor after all. Jen's been busy at the research table completing smithing and machining technology, allowing us to begin crafting armor and a plasteel longsword for our designated melee fighter. As for who that would be, it kinda has to be the most expendable one of all, so we're opting for Trader Rect. In mid-spring, there was a faction assault. Noah's faction was going at it against the Duke's gang once again, and they must have been traveling right next to each other in the darkness because they arrived on the map in the exact same spot, and just like that, the battle was underway. And what kind of friends would we be if we let them fight all alone? So the colony assembled to provide aid. Not to mention, we want to have first dibs on loot and prisoners. But alas, the battle was over by the time we arrived, and none of the survivors were deemed worth saving. But since the gang was already assembled, we did a little bit of mega sloth hunting on the way home. Now with Jen's advanced rank within the Empire, she requires a throne room, so we began construction of one on the western side of the base. With the throne room complete, Jen was promoted to an acolyte. And with Jen's new rank came new perks. She'll now be able to call in a squad of Empire troopers to aid us in battle. Toward the end of spring, 6 desperate refugees arrived at the colony asking for help. Among them were 5 children, and we'd be no better than the Duke's gang if we didn't provide them with some aid. So we converted the hospital back over into a barracks to house them, and we got the sole adult among them to start cooking us some meals, a role that was vacated by Mac late last year. And that frees Jen up to focus solely on research. As for the children, aged about 3 to 11 years old, we had a special role in mind for them. The children lacked any real useful skills for the colony, but what they do have are bodies. And that's pretty much all you need to set up a melee blocking position. And that's something we've been sorely lacking without proper melee fighters, and the children were instrumental in helping us clear out this bug infestation. Now, you might think that that's a pretty cruel way to treat the children. However, the next day, one of them decided to offer to join the colony. At a mere 3 years old, and having no aptitude in anything except for a little bit into combat after the bug battle, how could we refuse? We would call this one Coombs, and we would immediately get a classroom set up to properly educate the child. And later that day, Chris also asked if she could join the colony. And seeing as how she was doing such a good job at cooking and no one had gotten food poisoning just yet, we said yes and gave her the name Samurai. And at this rate, some serious construction would be needed to expand the living quarters. Hearing of our recent combat exploits, Noah sent us a quest. Apparently some raiders from the Duke's gang have been harassing some of their trade caravans, and they're asking us for help. We take out the gang's camp, they give us a Prestige Recon helmet. This would be our first opportunity to take the fight to the Duke himself. So we got Queen Bee and Dawn Several packed up and sent our best fighters, Bob, Hugh, and Joel, on our first raid. Everyone else would stay behind and hold down the fort, and even though all the builders had left, we could still lay down some blueprints so the resources could be hauled out in preparation for construction. But the growth of the colony was not done yet. The next day, a high mate offered to join the colony, and it turns out it's Joel's lover. A high mate is a genetically altered type of human with blue to purple skin who's very attractive with a high libido and is able to psychically bond with their partner. We would call her Foxsake, and Joel would sure be happy to see her when he comes home. Finally, after several days of traveling, Bob, Hugh, and Joel finally arrived at the Duke's camp, and our first raid was about to begin. One of them ventured too far away from the base, and Hugh took him down with a single headshot. And after falling back to some cover, short-range shotgun and machine gun fire took down 2 more, and the rest were forced to flee. After disabling the power grid, the mission was deemed complete, and the boys could come home. Only to be ambushed about 10 seconds later by a couple more bandits. And before long, the boys returned home safe in the middle of a sandstorm, alive and well. Toward the end of summer, the remaining children that we had rescued decided it was time to leave. And so it was that 4 11-year-old children returned to the Rim. Mechanoids. Curiously though, only 2 of them. Perhaps this was some kind of a scouting party for a larger raid yet to come. And sure enough, toward the end of summer, the rest of them had arrived. Finally, a good opportunity to test out our new kill box. Admittedly, we weren't quite ready for this one and some mistakes were made. Jen caught on fire for a few moments, but before long we had a handle on things and Trader Rekt had his opportunity to shine here as our melee blocker. That is, until Jeffro Bagman took over and showed him how it's done. And after a few moments of tense, close quarters combat, the battle was over, the Mechanoids were defeated. And as summer came to a close, we were about to enter into a bit of a quiet stretch for the colony. The perfect opportunity to get caught up on base construction. We fortified the kill box, we tore down some nearby ruins, we mined for more resources, and we started on some new bedrooms on the western side. It sure did feel good for Randy to go easy on us for a little while, giving us the space we need to make some leaps forward in progress. But Randy wasn't done going easy on us yet. Pods arrived, containing a psychic emanator, which will increase the mood of any colonist standing near it, and moments later, we found a healer mech serum in the fibercorn field. And after researching microelectronics, I got the sense that things were just a little bit too quiet around here, and a sense of dread was starting to build for what threat may come next. Fortunately, that would be a threat of my own choosing. The Empire requested that we signal a mechanoid cluster to our location, in exchange for increasing Jen's rank within the Empire. They would arrive in the south, right next to our second ancient danger. Among them, a mortar, which would begin shelling the base in 7.4 days. And it was decided to wait to see if anything else might arrive in the next few days to help us with the threat. Like this escaped cultist here, who offered to join the colony. Sporting a missing eye, a flesh tentacle, and an aptitude for planting, how could we refuse? Not to mention his special death refusal ability, allowing him to resurrect himself after death 4 times. And after dispatching of some manhunting rhinos that arrived at the base, we gave him the nickname Lore Master Will. And what do we have here? New lovers. Hugh and Foxsake are now in a relationship, but I thought Joel and Foxsake were lovers. But it appears she came to the colony with her sights set on another man. High mates will be high mates, and this would bring down Joel's mood severely over the coming days. A few days later, we did some business with a trade caravan from Noah's faction. We were able to purchase a full set of cataphract armor. For now, we have to let Trader Rekt wear that since he's been designated as our melee fighter. A critical piece to the puzzle, which was the mechanoid cluster to the south. But before we could get to that, a shuttle suddenly crashed in the southeastern corner, and the Duke's gang was on their way to kill or capture the occupants. Or were they being chased by manhunting rhinos because a huge pack of them followed close after? We'll never know, but the battle was absolutely brutal between the Empire, the rhinos, and the raiders stuck between them. The colony scrambled to save them, along with the traders from Noah's faction that sold us the cataphract armor, and together we defeated the manhunting rhinos, patched up the VIP from the shuttle, and packed her up inside the rescue shuttle in exchange for a promotion for Jen. We took prisoners and did our best to help save them, if anything just for the medical experience, but Randy was not done yet. As mechanoids had arrived once again, some travelers were caught in the crossfire, and it was a massacre. And as the colony scrambled to help, Lore Master Will was shot through the heart and killed immediately. And with Trader Rekt on a mental break, it was up to the rest of us to hold the line. And with absolutely perfect timing, a prison break. Fortunately, the mechanoids were all but defeated, and the prisoners were swiftly brought to justice. With the last of the mechanoids dispatched, and having lost little more than a couple of toes in the process, we resurrected Lore Master Will to find that his eye is back, meaning his vision would improve and therefore his proficiency in all of his work tasks as well. But the mechanoid cluster remained, and we were less than a day away from the beginning of the battle. Bob built us some barricades up to the north, and Andrea called in immediate military aid from Noah's faction, who had recently become our ally. Noah's soldiers arrived from the west and started moving in immediately, just as Jen inadvertently fired her automatic pistol into the mechanoid cluster, waking everyone up. And so the battle began. Jen used her permit to call in a trooper squad from the Empire, and the colony took up defensive position behind the barricades. And through the fire, smoke, and pouring rain, chaos ensued. Before long, we were holding the line to the north, that is until an incendiary round struck Lore Master Will in the head, killing him instantly. But at this point, the battle was all but won. We sallied forth and destroyed the remaining mechanoids together. And we figured, you know, since everyone's already here, why don't we just crack into the ancient danger and see what's inside? Lore Master Will resurrected for the second time. We still got 2 lives left, and together with our allies, we finished off the bug infestation inside the ancient danger. But we're not done yet. We still have to crack into the ancient crypto sleep caskets to see who's inside. This time, an entire squad of ancient soldiers. It's a good thing we have allies for this battle, because it was fierce. But after what seemed like minutes of explosive close quarters combat, the final ancient soldier was defeated, and the prolonged battle was finally over. Lore Master Will did the honors of destroying the last of the mechanoid structures, much to the rejoicing of the entire colony. The quest was complete, and Jen received her promotion once again. And look at all the loot that was left behind, including a small pile of luciferium inside the hermetic crate, a powerful drug capable of turning a pawn into a super soldier, even allowing them to grow back body parts. For example, a missing eye, making Trader Hugh a perfect candidate to start taking it. Hugh will have to take one of these every 5 days for the rest of his life. And thus, fall ended and winter began. It had been a very busy couple of days for the colony, but in the end, we came out on top and everyone was still alive. Kind of. Lore Master Will did die a couple of times. We burned our dead, Jen had her promotion ceremony, and we played around with Jen's new psi-casting ability, Wall Raise, and also Neural Heat Dump, which we tested out on Brunk here, putting him into a temporary coma. And so began another long stretch of peace here at the White River Settlement, allowing us ample time to collect resources and begin long-anticipated construction projects like the double-thick outer wall. But winter didn't pass without a little bit of fighting, such as fighting prisoners, manhunting monkeys, alpha beavers, and even a manhunting cougar. But overall, winter was a time of peace, prosperity, and growth for the colony, setting us up for future battles next year where we will make preparations for our eventual assault on the Duke's stronghold. Hey everyone, how's it going? Hope you enjoyed this episode here. So, unfortunately, I ran into some issues when I was filming this one. Once in a great while, I still make huge mistakes when I'm recording, and this was a 6.5 hour recording session to get the footage for this episode, and unfortunately there was no voice audio that came through on that, so it was just nothing but gameplay audio. I had to go back, and so my options were basically like refilm the entire thing, but I didn't have a backup save file, so that was off the table. Number 2 was to just like dub a voice line over the entire thing, which is not a style that I typically use in my videos, but it is something that I've done in the past, so it's something that I guess I'm comfortable with doing. But it was not my plan to do this episode that way. This would have probably been like a 40-minute episode otherwise, but because I kind of voiced over things, the tempo is a little bit different when you do it like that, because you're not kind of doing like stream of consciousness, you're doing more of like a summary recap of things. So that's why this is a little bit different. It's actually a lot different, completely different style than the first episode. I'm not sure what I'm going to end up doing for the third episode. I guess I will play it by ear. Maybe I'll do like a mixture of both to kind of change up the tempo in the middle of the video if things kind of start getting slow, kind of speed through it with a voiceover section. Anyway, I hope you guys are enjoying the series still. If you're looking for some more RimWorld content before the next video comes out, check out the Naked Man-Eaters challenge that I did. That was a pretty fun one as well, and I rewatched it, and I still think it's a pretty good video, so go ahead and check that out, and I'll see you all in the next one.